What's popping, gamers? So I wanted to make an anthropology video about the undead heroes, such as, Undying, DP, Wraith King. But then, as I started to look for the ones fitting the criteria, I realized some heroes partly fit, some look like they fit but they don't actually. Some have the name of a ghost, like Ancient Apparition, but aren't. So what is an undead hero really? We must define it. So the ones that are definitely undead are as follows: Death Prophet, Lich, Undying, Clinkz, Vengeful Spirit, and the last one may surprise you, it's Kunkka. That's the ones that are literally living dead. But there's also some spooky, skeleton-y, ghosty ones like Necrophos and Pugna. So what about them? There's also those who kinda died and then got transformed, like Venomancer and the Spear Brothers. Are they living dead? I decided to expand the definition to spooky, skeleton-y, ghostly-looking ones, and the other ones, in my opinion, don't fit, since they never actually died and they don't look like anything undead either. That leaves us with the previously mentioned, plus Necrophos, Lifestealer, Pugna, and Wraith King. Lifestealer never died, but he's immortal to the point of being kind of the same as Death Prophet. Some other spooky heroes I decided not to include are Nightstalker, Bane, Visage, and Razor. They're all spooky and connected to fear and the afterlife, so they're worth mentioning in this spooky video, but they're only worth the mention, and I've decided not to include them. Now let's talk about each individual hero and summarize their lore and how they became undead. Death Prophet used to be, as her name suggests, a death prophet. She would tell people when they were going to die for a prize. But after a while, she started to obsess over her own death. When she couldn't foresee it no matter how much she tried, she resorted to the ultimate option, but even suicide wouldn't let her see her own death. She killed herself over and over, desperately trying to uncover death's mysteries, but could never die permanently like others could. She grew envious of other people's mortality, but after dying countless times, each time she brought a little bit more of death back with her. Shadows of her past lives followed her as wraiths, and her blood grew thin. She now fights in the Battle of Dota 2, still trying to die her last permanent death. Lich used to be an incredibly powerful frost mage, so powerful that entire kingdoms felt threatened, and eventually, together they bound the sorcerer and threw him down the famously bottomless black pool. He fell for a year before an outcrop snagged him, where he was stuck. There, he remained dead but undecaying, until a geomancer trying to measure the pool and test its infamous depth, intertwined with the ropes that had bound Lich. He pulled him up, and as curious as he was, he decided to resurrect the mage and ask about the pool. So many centuries had passed that nobody remembered the violence Lich possessed, and after the resurrection was complete, in an instant, the geomancer was consumed. Undying doesn't remember much of what he was like before he was, undying. Just losing a war and then being thrown into the yawning pit of the dead god before hearing the dirge song. Over time in the pit, it didn't matter how much he resisted. Eventually, he started hearing the dirge song and got consumed by it, eventually becoming the herald of the dead god, forced to fall and rise again in service to his nihilistic lord. The army of the dead god is the same one that attacked Antimage's people. Clinkz was a known skilled bowman and protector of the Haven in service to the Mage King Sothorex. When the demon Merexe form appeared, the Mage King declared an unbreakable spell. Whoever could slay the demon would become immortal. Clinkz didn't know about the spell, but nonetheless went to battle. He eventually drew the demon back to the gates of the sixth hell, but as he shot his last baneful arrow dealing the killing blow, Merexiform let out hellfire and set Clinkz ablaze. His flesh burned at the same time as being granted life without end by the spell from the King Mage, becoming the Clinkz we know, the Burning Skeleton. Vengeful Spirit was the heir to the ghastly Eerie, but her sister betrayed her and stole her birthright. To free herself from her sister's trap, she had to sacrifice her wings. But she is of the Skywrath kind, and they would never accept her without her wings, so she sought help from the Skywrath goddess Skriak. She gave her body in exchange for becoming a spirit, the very essence of revenge, the Vengeful Spirit. A haunting ghost, only still alive to get vengeance on her sister. Since Kunkka is my next hero lore video, I decided to skip him in this one. It's a bit convoluted and I don't want to spoil it, quite frankly, because it's worth having in its own video. It's that cool and I feel like I need to do this to do him justice, and his video will pop up right here when it's done. Necrophos was a cardinal in the Romescu faith, which is basically Catholic Christianity. There was a plague ravaging the people living near the Cathedral of Romescu, where Necrophos lived. He promised spiritual rewards to dying nobles in exchange for wealth and property. Eventually, his scams got figured out though, and he was tried guilty of heresy and sentenced to serve in the plague ward. There, he was meant to die of illness, but the Necrophos, you see, was immune. He caught the illness, but instead of being weakened by it, became the almighty plague mage. Now, the Pope of Pestilence travels the world looking for ways to spread his illness. Near the Nether Reaches, there was a temple devoted to the arts of oblivion, or rare magic. The temple was in need of a new leader, so they set a trial for a bunch of children to find the destined Grand Master. Pugna, at age 13 months, and 2 other toddlers were the last contestants. Some possessions of the former Grandmaster were presented to the children, and each of Pugna's contenders made their single picks. Pugna responded by blasting them with emerald flames and snatched up both of the items. He was rushed to the throne as Grandmaster, but within 5 years, the only remains of the temple were its ashes. Lifestealer is 2 different people bound to one existence, a wizard and a creature. The creature used to be an Aglodi man, but was cursed with immortality and sentenced for life. Over the years, both the chains and the creature's mind had corroded, turning him into an insane beast that didn't even want to escape anymore. The wizard and the creature were locked together in a cell in the dungeons of Devark, and the wizard was plotting escape. He wanted to infest Lifestealer's body, and then use it to berserk his way out of the dungeons, so the wizard could quietly return to his body and escape unnoticed. But when he infested the creature, its madness was so overpowering that the mage was too immediately thrown into insanity. This awoke the creature back to sanity though, and now controlled a body but with a voice in its head from the wizard. Their merging filled the new being, the Lifestealer, with one goal: to escape. And so they did. Wraith King used to be Skeleton King, but was changed because of copyright issues with Blizzard. His lore used to be that he had a longevity spell cast on him, where, as long as he expanded his Empire of Bones, he would live on. Everything in his domain was bone, from the walls and floors to even the ivory forest. But then, the Wraith Knight update event happened. When he realized bone could rot, he wanted a more permanent way to sustain his empire. He was not a fan of flesh either, so he instead decided on Wraith energy, driven from dark souls. On the Wraith Night, which happens once every 1,000 years, he performed a ritual and built his new empire of Wraith energy. So that's it for the Undead Heroes. I hope everyone had a spooky Halloween. And I will see you in a few days for Kunkka's video, which I'm very excited about. So, until then, I hope you have a wonderful day, and